Hi, everybody. It's Joe Cioffi here, meteorologist, S&S Storm Chasers, as we take a look at the severe weather prospects as we go through this. Because it's actually rather quiet across much of the country. And when we take a look at the Storm Prediction Center severe weather risk as we go into this evening, we see a marginal risk across much of the coastal bend of Texas, and then continuing on northwestward through the Rio Grande Valley, and back up toward Del Rio into West Texas near El Paso and southwestern New Mexico. We also have a marginal risk of severe over central and southern Florida. And while there is a rather large area of thunderstorms being indicated, not just along the Gulf Coast and in the east, but up through the Rockies, there's no severe weather that's forecast for those areas. And as we move over through the next couple of days, the risk for Thursday shifts toward the area in Texas, from Corpus Christi into southwestern Louisiana, extending north and west from there to San Antonio and Austin, and then on northeastward as we go toward the Texas-Louisiana border. And we have a marginal risk for the rest of Louisiana into southwestern Mississippi down to about Biloxi Gulfport, and that extends westward into north-central Texas, all the way back over into toward Del Rio. So we're going to see how that plays out for tomorrow. Also have a marginal risk up in the northern Rockies, up in northern Utah, eastern Idaho, parts of Montana, western Wyoming, and northeastern Nevada. There's also the risk of some possible thunderstorms, but not severe, in parts of eastern New York State and extending over into interior New England. You can see that small area that's being drawn there. There's an upper air disturbance that's going to be moving through that particular part of the country. And as we move on to day 3, which is for Friday, the risk will shift down to the Gulf states, where we have a marginal risk, and also up into Montana. And you can see the large area of possible thunderstorms that's indicated throughout much of the Mississippi Valley, lower Mississippi Valley, and into the northern half of the Rockies. So let's take a look at what's going to be happening synoptically. we're going to look at the NAM model. I'm just going to back it up just a little bit here, and we can take a look at what's happening as we go in through this evening. And you can see the flare-up of some storms there on the model. And now we're moving through the daytime on Thursday. It shifts over into eastern Texas and then runs northeastward from there. And this is part of low pressure that's going to be moving into the Ohio Valley, the lower Ohio Valley, and then make its way and redevelop along the mid-Atlantic coast. So you can see the center jump starts to take place here as we go into Saturday morning, bringing with it some rain. I'm not sure whether there's going to be much in the way of severe weather with the trailing cold front with this, because that front's already offshore. So there will be some, I don't know how real that may very well be with this particular low. I'm still thinking that because of the full moon for Saturday night, that there's a potential down along the New Jersey coast and down to the Delaware coast. There's not a bad pressure gradient that develops here. When I say not a bad one, I mean that it's kind of a moderate pressure gradient. It should be enough to produce some northeast winds at 20 to 30 knots. And when you add that to the full moon situation, you could have some coastal flooding and the potential for some beach erosion, and that's with the first coastal low of this month. I mean, we are in the midst of severe weather season, but overall, when you look at some of the past years in history, the severe weather that's occurred so far this year has been, I think, on the subdued side. I mean, if you want my opinion, I got to look at the statistics, but there seems that there have been fewer tornado outbreaks during the March through May time frame as opposed to what we've seen in past years. So I'm going to take a look at those stats and see how they play out. You can see there's some active weather developing in the central part of the state, and we'll move on to a couple of other radars here and take a look at what's going on. Not too much happening across the Gulf states, some scattered activity as you head through into the Florida Panhandle. And since South Florida was indicated to be at a marginal risk of severe, you can see the current radar is showing some some storms there. As you put it in motion, they're moving out to the east. And then there's kind of this broken line that's forming in the northern part of the state with a few embedded heavier cells in a couple of places. And the line just the cells themselves seem to be moving east. The line itself doesn't seem to be moving very far at all. We'll go back to that Texas loop because I got that going here so we can take a look at these cells here. Looks like these are starting to flare up just a little bit in the central part of the state. There's some activity here, some heavy rains along the Texas coast. There isn't too much happening as we head up northwest towards San Antonio and Del Rio at this point. And we've got some moderate cells developing here. Looks like a pretty good cell here southeast of El Paso, moving into the West Texas Panhandle as these cells move to the northeast. Same for the ones in New Mexico. Looks like a nice little cluster here that's developing. We'll spend a little more time on that tomorrow. Models have kind of backed away from that because of how the upper air is setting up. Looks like the upper air storm that'll be along the east coast might be further southeast. It'll just force everything offshore. We'll see how that plays. We're still only at Wednesday, and we're talking 6 days from now. So check in back tomorrow. We'll take another review of what kind of severe weather we'll be expecting for Thursday and for Friday and going into the weekend.